There comes a moment in your life when everything feels like it's falling apart, when people you thought were your forever start to drift. And no matter how tightly you hold on, nothing stays the same. You look around, and the faces that once felt like home now feel like strangers. You scroll through old memories, you listen to old voice notes, and you whisper to yourself, what happened to us? But maybe the better question is, what happened to me? Because sometimes it's not that you outgrew them, it's that you outgrew the version of yourself who needed them. There was a time when you didn't know your worth, a time when your heart was searching for peace in people, a time when love meant losing yourself just to be seen. But Allah, in His mercy, will never let you stay small when your soul is meant to expand. So He starts the process gently and then suddenly. He removes, He distances, He detaches, and you mistake it for punishment. But in truth, it's preparation. He separates you, not to isolate you, but to elevate you. He takes away the hand you were holding so that you can finally hold on to Him. He ends the chapter you were clinging to because He knows the next one requires a version of you that pain will produce. And yes, it hurts. Because every transformation does, every shedding of the old self feels like heartbreak. But this is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your becoming. You didn't lose them, you found you. You didn't break, you began. And sometimes, the only way Allah can introduce you to who you are is by taking away everything you were not. So in this journey, you will understand why the people who left were never meant to stay. You will see why every ending carried a divine lesson. And you will realize your separation was never rejection, it was your initiation. Stay till the end of this video, because by the time it finishes, you won't just understand why they left. You'll understand why you had to rise. You didn't lose them, you found you. You thought you lost someone, and for a while, it felt like your whole world fell apart. You couldn't understand why it had to end, why the person you cared for had to walk away. It felt unfair. It felt like a punishment. You kept asking yourself, why did Allah take them from me? But slowly, through the silence and the pain, something began to happen. You started hearing your own voice again, the one that was lost under all the noise. You began remembering who you were before you tried so hard to be enough for someone else. You began realizing that maybe this wasn't loss. Maybe this was return. You see, sometimes Allah removes someone not to break your heart, but to bring your heart back to Him. He lets certain people walk in so that through them, you learn something about love, and then He lets them walk out so that through their absence, you learn something about yourself. Maybe they were there to awaken you, to show you how deeply you were still searching for love in people, how often you built your peace on their presence, and how easily your world would shake the moment they pulled away. Their leaving didn't destroy you. It revealed you. It uncovered the parts of you that still depended on people to feel whole. It showed you where you had forgotten that real peace, real love, real safety all come from Allah alone. When the lesson was complete, He took them, not to punish you, but to protect you from losing yourself any further. Because sometimes Allah saves you by removing what you thought you needed. He takes what you cling to so that you can finally cling to Him. You didn't lose them, you lost the illusion that their love could replace His. And in that loss, you found something greater. You found you. The you who is finally learning to love without begging, to give without losing, and to live without needing anyone to complete you. Because now, You were already complete all along. You didn't outgrow them. You outgrew the version of you that met them. You didn't outgrow them because you became better. You outgrew them because you became different, because you became real. The version of you that met them was still learning how to love. She didn't know how much of herself she gave away every time she tried to be understood. She thought love meant proving her worth, fixing what wasn't hers to fix, and shrinking her light so someone else could shine. You met them at a time when your heart was still soft and searching. You needed connection not because you were weak, but because you were human. And that version of you tried so hard to hold on, even when deep down she knew that something didn't feel peaceful anymore. But then came the breaking the distance, the silence, the confusion. And in that breaking, you began to see the difference between what felt familiar and what felt right, between being loved and being needed, between staying comfortable and growing closer to Allah. And maybe that's when you realized you weren't meant to stay the same. You were meant to evolve. You were meant to rise. Sometimes growth means your soul starts craving things that your old self used to avoid. Quiet, peace, sincerity, simplicity. And those who were once your mirror no longer reflect who you are now. Not because they changed, but because you did. You learned that love isn't about attachment. It's about alignment. It's about two hearts walking toward Allah together, not one heart pulling the other backward. And so you stopped blaming them for not understanding you. You stopped trying to make them fit into a chapter that was no longer meant for them. You began to see that maybe their purpose was never to stay, but to awaken the version of you that was buried beneath fear, beneath people-pleasing, beneath the need to be chosen. Now you walk differently. You speak softer, but with more truth. You give, but from fullness, not from emptiness. You love, but you let go when Allah asks you to. You didn't outgrow them because you wanted to. You outgrew them because you were guided to. Because the version of you who met them couldn't walk into the destiny Allah prepared for you. So no, you're not cold now. You're not heartless. You're healed. You just no longer vibrate on the same frequency of pain you once mistook for love. And that's okay, because that means you've changed. You've grown. You've become the person that the old you was praying to be. The version of you that met them needed them to feel seen. But the version of you that exists now, she's seen by Allah, and that's enough. When Allah elevates you, He separates you. When Allah wants to take you higher, He first takes away what holds you down. And that's why sometimes before elevation, there's separation. Before He gives you peace, He removes what disturbs it. Before He opens a new door, He closes the old one, even if you're still standing at it, knocking and crying for it to open again. You see, separation doesn't always mean rejection. It can be direction. It can be Allah's gentle way of saying, this is not your home anymore. There's more for you ahead. At first, it hurts because the human heart gets attached. You built memories with them. You built comfort with them. And part of you thought you couldn't live without them. So when Allah starts to move them out of your life, it feels like He's taking your world away. But what you don't see yet is that He's only taking what would have kept you from becoming who you're meant to be. When Allah elevates you, not everyone can come with you. Some people were meant to walk beside you only for a season, not a lifetime. Because the higher your soul rises, the less weight it can carry. And sometimes people you love become part of that weight. Not because they're bad, but because they belong to a version of you that you've outgrown. Maybe they were part of your comfort, but not your calling. Maybe they were part of your healing, but not your destiny. And Allah in His mercy, removes them quietly, not to leave you empty, but to make room for something sacred, something stronger, something that fits the person you're becoming. There are times Allah isolates you so He can elevate you. He hides you so He can refine you. He separates you so He can strengthen you, because you cannot carry everyone to the mountain He's calling you to climb. Some lessons can only be learned in solitude. Some growth can only happen in silence. It's in that silence you begin to see things you couldn't see before. You start noticing the peace that comes when you stop forcing what's not meant for you. You start realizing that losing people isn't always lost. Sometimes it's protection. Protection from heartbreak that you don't see yet. Protection from paths that would have led you away from Allah. And slowly, your tears start to turn into trust. You start to whisper, maybe this is His mercy in disguise. And that's when peace begins to bloom quietly, softly, from a heart that finally understands. Every elevation requires separation. Before a bird can fly, it has to leave the nest. Before a seed can rise, it has to break. And before you can step into the person Allah created you to be, you have to let go of the person you were and everything that came with them. So don't mourn what left. You're not being punished, you're being purified. You're not losing, you're being lifted. Because when Allah separates you, it's never to leave you behind. It's always to bring you closer. Closer to your purpose, closer to your peace, closer to Him. Some people were a lesson, not a lifetime. Some people come into your life like sunlight, warm, beautiful, and full of meaning. But they were never meant to stay forever. They were meant to teach you something that couldn't be learned any other way. And that's hard to accept, because when we love someone, we build forever in our minds. We picture them beside us through everything. We make plans, promises, and prayers. But not everyone we love is written in our forever. Some are written in our becoming. Some people were never meant to complete you. They were meant to awaken you. They come to show you something about yourself, about love, about attachment, about what you still need to heal. And when their purpose is done, they leave. Not because they stopped caring, but because their role in your story was finished. It's painful when Allah ends something that once felt right. You replay the memories, you wonder what went wrong, you question yourself 100 times. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? But sometimes it's not about wrong or right. It's about completion. Their chapter in your life simply reached its last page. Think about it, not every flower blooms in every season. Not every star stays in the same part of the sky. And not every soul is meant to walk your whole journey with you. Some people were just bridges meant to take you from one stage of your growth to the next. You were meant to cross paths, not build a home there. And that's okay, because what they gave you, even if it ended, still lives inside you. They taught you how to feel deeply. They showed you what you deserve. Or sometimes, what you should never accept again. They revealed parts of your heart that needed healing. And through the ache of their absence, you learned how to stand with Allah, not against the pain, but through it. Maybe they came into your life to teach you patience, maybe to remind you of your worth, maybe to break your heart just enough so you'd finally return to the one who heals it. They were never wasted time. Even if it ended, it mattered. Even if it hurt, it grew you. You see, love doesn't always mean forever. Sometimes love means learning. It means recognizing that even if someone wasn't meant to stay in your life, they were still meant to stay in your story as a chapter that helped you rise. And you can still love them quietly, from a distance, not with longing, but with gratitude. You don't have to hate what left to heal from it. You can honor it for what it was, a lesson that shaped you into who you are now. So don't be bitter that they left. Be thankful that they came, because even temporary souls can leave permanent growth. They were never yours to keep. They were Allah's gift for a moment, a mirror, showing you what your soul needed to see. And now, as you walk forward without them, remember this. You're not empty, you're wiser. You're not broken, you're becoming whole. Because some people were not meant to be your lifetime. They were meant to prepare you for it. You are not who you were when you met them. You are not who you were when you met them. And that's something to be proud of, even if it came through pain. The version of you who met them was still learning what love meant. She thought love was about holding on, about fixing everything that was broken, about giving until she was empty just to keep the peace. She didn't yet know that love is not meant to cost you yourself. You've changed, you've grown, and maybe you don't even realize how much, because growth rarely announces itself, it just happens quietly. In the moments when you choose peace instead of chaos, when you stay silent, instead of explaining yourself to someone who doesn't listen, when you pray instead of chasing, when you forgive instead of fighting back. You used to be scared of being alone. Now you've learned that solitude is not loneliness. It's space for your soul to breathe. It's the place where you hear Allah the clearest. You've learned that being alone with Him is still being completely loved. You used to break yourself just to keep others whole. Now you understand that you can love people without losing yourself. You've learned that not every relationship is meant to be repaired. Some are meant to release you, because some doors only close to protect you from walking backward. And you've learned that you can miss people without needing them back. That's a sign of maturity, when your heart can remember softly without reopening old wounds. When you can say, I wish them peace, and mean it even if they once caused you pain. The old you would have tried to fix everyone. The new you prays for them and keeps walking. The old you would have begged to be understood. The new you has made peace with being misunderstood, because your worth no longer depends on who sees it. The old you would have chased love. The new you sits still, knowing that what's meant for you will never have to be forced. You've learned that strength doesn't always look like fighting. Sometimes it looks like surrendering. It's choosing to let go of what drains your soul and trusting that Allah will replace it with what was written for you all along. You are softer now, but not weaker. Your heart still loves deeply, but with wisdom, not desperation. You still care, but you've learned that caring doesn't mean carrying everyone's burden. You still love, but now your love comes from fullness, not fear. And maybe this is what healing really looks like. Not forgetting the past, but thanking Allah for it. Because if it hadn't broken you, you wouldn't have learned how to rebuild yourself on something real. You are not who you were when you met them. And that's the most beautiful thing about this whole journey. You've outgrown the old pain, the old patterns, the old fears. You've become the person that your younger self was praying to become. You've become the one who doesn't just survive loss. You understand it, you transform through it, you rise from it. So when you think of who you were and who you are now, don't be sad about how much you've changed. Be grateful, because it means you've healed. It means Allah didn't let your pain go to waste. It means you're living proof that every heartbreak, every ending, every separation was only the beginning of becoming. Every ending is the beginning of becoming. Every ending feels like a heartbreak. It feels like something precious has been taken from you, a dream, a person, a story you thought would last. Endings never come easy. They feel like loss, like failure, like silence. After a beautiful song, but what you don't see in that moment is that endings are not punishment. They're transformation. They're the beginning of turning into someone you could only become through this very pain. When Allah closes a door, it's not because He wants you to stand outside in the cold. It's because that door was no longer leading you toward who you're meant to be. And even if you stand there knocking, begging, crying for it to open again, He knows what you don't. That what's behind that door cannot carry you to your destiny. You see, growth often disguises itself as loss. Before a flower blooms, the seed has to break. Before a butterfly emerges, the caterpillar has to disappear. Something has to end for something new to begin. And that's exactly how Allah works with our hearts. He allows something to end, a friendship, a love, a season of your life, so He can write a new chapter that you couldn't even imagine yet. But the human heart struggles with this because we like familiar things. We want to hold on to what once made us happy, even if it no longer helps us grow. So when the ending comes, we resist it. We cry, we question, we try to hold tighter. And yet, no matter how much we try, what's meant to leave will still leave. Because Allah knows if He doesn't end it, you'll never move toward what's written for you. Sometimes you need to lose what you love, to learn that your heart can still beat without it. You need to walk through silence, to realize that peace was never outside of you, it was always within you. You need to watch something fall apart, so you can understand that your worth was never built on what stayed. Every ending is a turning point. It's Allah saying it's time. You've learned what you needed to learn here. And even though it hurts, something beautiful begins to grow beneath the pain. Because endings are where the soil of your soul is tilled, so new life can take root. One day, you'll look back and realize that what you thought was falling apart was actually falling into place. That the door that closed was saving you from walking into a storm. That the love that left made space for peace to arrive. That the silence that broke you actually became the space where you met yourself and met Allah. You'll understand that no heartbreak was wasted. No tear was useless. Every ending had a reason, and that reason was growth. So don't fear what ends. Instead, whisper to your heart, something new is beginning. Because Allah never takes without the intention to replace. He never removes without the purpose to renew. He never ends without the mercy of beginning again. Maybe the pain you feel now is not destruction, it's construction. Maybe your world isn't collapsing, it's being rebuilt on stronger faith, on deeper love, on the kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone's presence. So breathe. Let what needs to leave, leave. Let what needs to end, end. And trust that whatever is meant for you will find you, not in your control, but in your surrender. Because every ending is not the end of you. It's the beginning of the you were always meant to become. Healing is not going back, it's rising higher. Healing is not about going back to who you were before the pain. It's not about pretending nothing happened, or erasing the memories, or forcing yourself to move on. Healing is about becoming someone new, someone softer, wiser, keener inside, because the pain taught you things peace never could. You see, pain changes people, not because it breaks them, but because it opens their eyes. It shows you who truly cares. It shows you where your strength comes from. And it shows you how much you can survive when everything you leaned on is gone. Before, you might have thought that healing meant returning. Returning to old friendships, old feelings, old versions of yourself. But healing is not about going back. It's about rising higher than where you fell. It's about walking forward with scars that no longer sting, but remind you of how far you've come. The world teaches you to hide your pain, to pretend you're okay, to rush your healing because people get uncomfortable with your silence. But Allah doesn't rush you. He allows your heart to heal at the speed of truth. He doesn't ask you to be fine. He asks you to be real. Healing means you stop asking why me and start whispering, what is Allah teaching me through this? It's when your pain no longer makes you bitter, but makes you better. When your heartbreak doesn't harden your heart, but purifies it. Healing means you learn to look back without falling apart. You can remember what hurt you and still smile. Not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer controls you. Because now you've turned that wound into wisdom. And sometimes the hardest part of healing is letting go of who you were in the story that broke you. That version of you did her best. She loved deeply. She tried sincerely. She gave everything she could, but she doesn't live here anymore. You've outgrown her. You've become the woman who no longer chases what's not written, who no longer fights for what Allah has released. Healing is when you stop waiting for an apology that will never come, because your peace no longer depends on someone else's awareness. Healing is when you can say, it hurt, but it grew me. When you can forgive without forgetting the lesson. When you can close the door gently without needing to slam it in anger. And healing doesn't mean you stop missing them. It just means the missing doesn't destroy you anymore. It means your heart has found somewhere else to rest. Somewhere safer, somewhere sacred with Allah. You no longer need to run back to the things that broke you, because you've learned that peace is not found in people. It's found in presence, the presence of Allah in your life, the presence of your own soul finally breathing again. Healing is a quiet victory. It doesn't look like shouting, "I'm over it." It looks like praying through the ache. It looks like smiling at a memory that once made you cry. It looks like finally sleeping at night with a heart that trusts the plan. So, don't rush your healing. Don't compare your journey to anyone else's. Everyone's timeline is different because everyone's lessons are different. Just remember, healing isn't about going back to how things were. It's about stepping into who you were meant to be all along. It's about rising higher, closer to peace, closer to purpose, closer to Allah, because real healing isn't returning to the old you. It's becoming the version of you who no longer needs to. Your separation was your initiation. Sometimes what feels like separation is actually the beginning of your becoming. It feels like you've been abandoned, like the ground beneath you cracked open and swallowed everything you thought you needed to stand on. But in truth, that separation was your initiation. It was the moment Allah began preparing you for what you were always meant to carry. You see, separation is never random. Allah never takes something without giving you something deeper in return. When He pulls someone, something, or even an entire season of your life away, it's because He knows your heart was getting too comfortable there, too attached, too small for where He's taking you next. We often mistake comfort for peace, but they're not the same. Comfort keeps you where you are. Peace comes when you trust where you're going, even when the path feels lonely. So maybe that person leaving wasn't rejection. It was redirection. Maybe that heartbreak wasn't destruction. It was construction of a new you, a higher you, a freer you. When Allah separates you, He is not pushing you away from love. He is pulling you toward real love. A love that doesn't depend on who stays. A love that doesn't disappear when people do. A love that roots you so deeply in Him that even if everything around you changes, you remain still, steady, at peace. Because separation doesn't mean you were unworthy. It means you were being chosen for something sacred. It means Allah saw a light in you that couldn't shine where you were. He needed to move you, to detach you from what was dimming you, so you could rise into what was meant for you. You thought you were being emptied, but really, He was making space. Space for new blessings, new people, new peace. Space for growth that couldn't happen in the old environment. Sometimes you have to lose what's familiar so you can finally find what's authentic. Every separation comes with an invitation to return to Him, to remember where your worth truly comes from. to rebuild your sense of identity, not around who you had, but around who you belong to. And yes, separation hurts. It shakes you. It strips you of everything you thought you needed. But that's how it begins the initiation. Allah takes you through the breaking so that your next chapter can be built on truth, not illusion. Think about it. You wouldn't grow without being stretched. You wouldn't rise without being pulled out of what's beneath you. You wouldn't find your wings if He didn't take away what was holding you on the ground. This was your initiation into surrender, your graduation from attachment, your entrance into deeper faith. And maybe that's why the loneliness you once feared so much has now become your most peaceful companion. Because in that silence, you finally met yourself. And in meeting yourself, you found Allah. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every tear you cried was washing away an old layer of you. Every person who left was part of a divine rearrangement. And every season of separation was only clearing the path for the version of you that was waiting to rise. This wasn't punishment, it was preparation. This wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And this wasn't the end, it was the beginning of everything real. Because your separation was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to initiate you into the truth of who you are and the one who has always been with you. So breathe, trust, and step into this next chapter knowing you are not the same soul who once begged to stay where you no longer belonged. You have been refined. You have been chosen. You have been initiated. And the one who walked out of that separation is not broken. She's reborn. Maybe after everything, you finally understand that nothing was ever taken from you, only returned to where it belonged. Every person who left, every season that ended, every silence that once terrified you was not meant to break you. It was meant to build you. You thought you were losing people, but really, you were losing illusions. You thought you were being left behind, but you were being lifted higher. The version of you that once begged to stay, she served her purpose. She learned, she loved, she gave, she fell, and then she grew. Now, it's time for you to honor her by moving forward. Because the truth is, you were never meant to stay in the same chapter forever. Growth requires movement. Elevation requires separation. And peace requires trust. Everything that left made room for everything that's coming. Every heartbreak cracked you open, so the light of Allah could finally enter. You didn't outgrow people. You outgrew the pain that once made you depend on them. You didn't lose love. You discovered what love truly means. It's not in being chosen by people. It's in being chosen by Allah to know Him deeper, to love Him purer, to walk through this life lighter. Look at you now. You survived what you thought would destroy you. You found calm in the places that once held chaos. You learned to sit alone without feeling lonely. You learned that peace was never found in what stayed, but in what was never meant to leave, Allah. So tonight, if your heart still aches, if you still wonder why it had to end this way, just remember, maybe this is not the ending. Maybe it's the unveiling. Maybe this is the moment you finally see that every separation was your initiation. And when you meet the next version of yourself, the one who walks lighter, loves deeper, and trusts more easily, you'll realize it was all worth it. Because the story was never about who left, it was always about who you became. And that is the most beautiful ending of all.